Mm-hmm.
Cool. Welcome to another episode of the Speak the Language podcast. This one is probably going to be the most time efficient one we've ever done. We've gotten better about getting it closer to the date. Like, I think almost every other day was this spring we recorded like 2 days before or the day before. But we're going to talk about some turkey hunting that happened today, which is usually we put it out like Monday morning. It's usually out by like Monday at 8 or something like that.
We were turkey hunting at 8.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was the whole part. I was like, you know what?
I mean, you got to go get content. Like
You got to go get content. Well, and like we're usually all around each other more, but we've all been kind of spread out the latter part of half week with all this Corona stuff's got everyone.
I know. Where'd you get these long cords? I mean, I'm at my house and you're at your house and we're like 2 miles away.
Social distancing.
And then you got Kevin who's 200 miles away and he's sitting with us.
I can hear him crystal clear though. Okay. No, but so yesterday, Troy and myself moseyed on down to Alabama, and we got I don't know. Take where with Kevin Matthews is here.
Yeah.
Troy's here. Y'all been doing this hunt for how long?
Kevin and I have been hunting. He said since
95,
but I think it's way before that.
Gotcha.
Matt and I grew up together, and when we played football together, they had moved me up to varsity, and Matt took me under his wing, and we become just great friends ever since then. And we've been hunting together a long time, but I guess Troy and them, y'all's first year was in 2007. In April of 2007 is when they came here the first time to hunt on Matt's farm. Yeah, and Jimmy came, and he ate a lot of ribs and killed a couple of turkeys, and him and Matt they shot one at the same time and made it interesting. But they've been coming since 2007.
Yeah. Well, I can still remember when I was watching the videos. I remember watching hunts from here that took place with y'all. I mean, so I remember it was like two years ago was the first time I got to come here. When we come out here in the first afternoon, you and Troy shot that double.
Right.
And didn't get to come last spring. We show up this spring, and yesterday we got here just early enough to like kind of ride around in the afternoon and we pulled some trail cameras and looked for sign, and it was about the most impressive amount of sign as you could ask for on a place.
I can tell you this. In my 13 years of hunting this place, last year was the first time we never killed a turkey.
Ever.
Last year was the first time we did not kill a turkey. And we were kind of distraught. Not that we didn't kill a turkey. We didn't even really work a turkey. We had one turkey on here gobbling that we knew of. Mm-hmm. And I honestly believe it's the one you killed this morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was a lot of things happening in and around this property on Matt's farm last year that we all think, even the biologists through the NWTF think that it was just a pressure thing, and a lot of things changed. And Matt did some burning a little bit late last year due to water and rain and all the issues.
Right.
And if you're not a good land manager and you're not managing your trees, you're definitely not managing your wildlife. And I was puzzled, and we were all puzzled to stand on this place on some of the prettiest mornings you heard last year and not hear anything. And to think, is it going to be like that for a long time, or is this just something temporary? Mm-hmm. And when that biologist came that summer and visited with Matt, he just looked at Matt and he says, I don't know why you turkeys left. I ain't got a single clue as to why, because you're doing everything absolutely perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was just puzzled. I mean, we rode him around on the Ranger, and there was quail running everywhere. Mm-hmm. We saw several coveys of quail, which is unusual, and that's when it really got to him. He said, because when you got quail, you're supposed to have turkeys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He said, he told Matt, he looked at him, he said, basically, and I'll be honest, if Toxie came up to me and said, hey, you got to put somebody's picture on the cover of Gamekeeper magazine that you think is a true gamekeeper, I mean, Matt would be the first one that would come to mind. I mean, his picture needs to be on the front cover. And the guy just looked at him and he said, all I can tell you is keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. He said, I don't have any suggestions to you. He said, you're doing everything. You're already doing anything and everything that I would recommend. So,
well, I do know this. Highway 84, which is a major highway, was put through this property on the south end of the property. And I still feel like that had a major a factor in these turkeys on this place, especially the older turkeys.
Mm-hmm.
I think this new generation now that we're seeing now are going to be turkeys that have grown up in it, used to it. They hear the cars. They know what's going on. I don't think the cars bother them now, but when they were building the rows, I think that was a big deal. All that big major equipment going on.
That been two years ago that happened? Well, I mean, it makes sense because even though it wasn't on a large scale, it's some form of habitat fragmentation. And it's going to have some sort of effect for a while. But then, like I said, like yesterday we got out there. I mean, impressive. I'm not just saying that.
I've never seen turkey sign where we saw it yesterday like we saw it yesterday.
That's the most I've seen since I've been hunting with Matt. It was unreal.
Yeah. I mean, it was like pulling the cameras, looking at the sign that we found. It was like, well, where do you want to go? There's not really a bad option.
That's one of those days, one of those options where one of those situations where you find all that sign and you just kind of back out and have to pinch yourself and go, "This is really happening."
Yeah.
I just found all these turkeys here. And I'm a turkey hunter?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. But we finally settled, or y'all finally settled on a spot for the morning that y'all refer to as the Holloway field, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And y'all kind of go through why y'all decided to start there particularly.
Just typically because
history.
I mean, it's just the way the field's set up. The turkeys just like it. It's just like a dove field. There's just fields that doves like, and there's some that may be pretty, but they don't like it. Well, they've always traditionally liked that field. We killed a lot of good turkeys there, and they can come from a lot of different directions. Plus, like you got the river that's going around the south end of it, and then you've got hardwoods around it, and with a lot of duck sloughs and stuff.
The timber's been cut.
And then the pines on the north end have been cut, and it's grown up in some cutover. But that's actually helping because the hens, you saw them this morning, those turkeys just come through there. And I mean, it's just good nesting habitat, and the way Matt's cleaned it up and, they planted longleaf pines in it. But it's just been traditionally a good hub, And it's
one of those places you can hear everything. You can hear up above you. You can hear across the river, to the left, to the right, north, south, east, and west. And then being the timber got cut, a lot of the cover had been taken away, but Matt left some of the huge, big oak trees.
Right.
And when you and I got there last night, which is something you and I both love to do, if I can go somewhere and see some turkeys in the afternoon or find some sign, first thing I start doing is look where I'm going to be the next morning at daylight. And we did that. We actually made a little spot for the camera, made a spot for me and Kevin, and we all got together and decided that's where we're going to go. And got there that morning and set up this morning, and we sat down, and where does the turkey gobble? Behind us and to the left.
Mm-hmm. And I'm like directly behind my left shoulder.
Oh, on the edge of a cutover. My first thinking was turn around. But then I'm like, no, let's stay right here. Maybe he'll fly down on the edge of the woods and walk through the woods and come up that road.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sitting there. You had Kevin told me he put the decoy out in the dark, and we set up and he says, is that decoy out? And I just looked out there. I thought he meant distance. I said, yeah, it's fine. But I didn't see what happened. He put the decoy down, and he wanted to make it look like it was feeding. Mm-hmm. Well, that new photo form, you got to change the way the zipper is,
works,
and the zipper makes the decoy. And Kevin didn't know that, so I looked out there finally when it started breaking day, and the decoy's tail was straight up in the air, and the beak was on the ground. I said,
setting it up straight in the dark like that, you can't really tell what you're doing,
I told Kevin, I said, hey, you might want to go out there and fix that. She looks a little crazy, like an ostrich trying to shove his head in the sand. So he runs out there to fix it. And as soon as he gets back, the turkey gobbles. And he says, I hope that turkey didn't see me. I said, he didn't see you. He just gobbled. About that time, and I could hear, and the turkey landed right in front of us. Well, you had already seen one fly out in the cutover. I didn't see that one.
One had landed probably 40 yards away from me, like directly to my left. He landed shallow out in the cutover. I couldn't tell what it was. I could tell it was a gobbler of some sort. But
because he was the same as all the black dirt out there that had been burned.
Right, but I didn't want to just jerk my head to the left and go, what? I was just like, I know there's turkey right there, but then as soon as he landed, I could see two more black dots up in the sky, and I'm like, oh gracious, this could about to get wild, or possibly, because they were flying right for where the gobbler was coming from,
Well, that joker hit the ground the first one. We heard it. Mm-hmm. We heard you say chor chor chor, and you hear pop, pop, So I'm immediately thinking, okay, they letting right there. Next thing I know, here's that thing just like a jet, just boom. Mm-hmm. He's right there, 10 yards in front of us. And the next thing I know, I cut my eye to the left, and there's one that flew in between you and Matthew. Y'all were set up back there with the cameras, and me and Troy flew in between us, and I mean lit like 5 steps in front of me, and I'm like, wow.
I thought he was going to clip you on the back of the head.
I'm
with
telling
his
you,
feet.
man, he just right there. You know, that's the closest. And then they just piled in on top of us. Wound up being three jakes. That other one came up. We thought it was a gobbler. Maybe had lit out in the cutover.
Yeah.
You know,
which that's what I thought too. And when the other one started doing that, my initial thought was, I wonder if they typically land where the first one did, and those other ones saw that hen decoy because they lit pretty much their feet. I mean, they lit right on top of her dang near. That's what they were interested in. So I wonder if they typically just land out there and walk into that field.
Well, you see, in the past they never could pitch into that field. They would roost to where they were roosting.
Yeah.
But that was all woods right there, so they couldn't pitch through there. Now they can just sail right across that whole opening, which would be cool. Which I was actually thinking, boy, how cool would it have been to be facing the other way and clip them when they come over, roll them out like a goose.
Which I kept on as they were landing. I was looking at all of them. I was like, one of these be a longbeard, please.
I thought for sure the first one was. When I saw him walking through that cut over with that mean walk and had that head cocked back, I thought,
because you'll see him do that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you'll be like a 2-year-old or something hanging out with some jakes, you know. And
still had another turkey in front of us gobbling that we thought was coming around the cutover to come down and meet us when these 3 turkeys finally just walked away from the decoys, but they were going to him.
Yeah. Well, there was a hen back there too. Yeah, she.
I think all together this morning I heard for sure 4, possibly 5.
Yeah. I know. I heard 4 for sure. You know, right there.
Yeah. Because you could, and we were hearing them.
Here's
360 degrees different directions.
Here's my question to y'all, and I'd like, and Matt's here. He's with us sitting here. We don't have enough microphones, but my question is, where did those turkeys go last year, and when and where did they go, and how'd they get back? I know the jakes may have been hatched here. It's possible.
Yeah.
But all these gobblers, where'd they go? We didn't hear them last year. They were nowhere within earshot of this place except for that one turkey. And one over here that we knew of. It's amazing how they do that.
The only thing and this is about like as broad of speculation, is there was some study, and I'm going to butcher this because I don't know the details, but I know it was a legit study because I was talking to Will Dixon about it actually. I think he's the one who told me first. Guy did a study, and he put some kind of a tracker on a hen turkey, and she was ranging 16 square miles, something like that. So
that was the girl I hunted with in Georgia.
Oh, okay.
She did that. So that was her studies at Georgia Tech.
Well,
she had one that went 21 miles.
So I could only imagine. I wonder if they just kind of.
But they've never done that here.
Yeah, I don't know.
But then again, it's kind of like that where we hunt in New Mexico. That one year that we had that really strong east wind before we even started hunting there. The east wind got to blow, and it was like 40, 50 mile an hour east wind for several days. The elk got in a big wad, and they all left the ranch, walked straight into the wind, had to shut the interstate down because the elk migrated off the ranch. Why? Nobody knows.
Well, I'm just wondering if the turkeys, with the exception of those jakes, like you said, but some of the older gobblers that are here, I wonder if they just went somewhere. I don't know what made them do it, if there's a bunch of different factors, but then there was enough to make them come back.
I don't know.
And then when they got here, they decided to stay because they had everything they need.
They probably left, and one of them told the other one, man, can you believe we left that place? What were we thinking? What were we thinking? Then, so the morning goes on, we sitting there and we realizing the sun, actually, when we set up last night, the one thing I didn't pay attention to, I thought the east was a little bit further to our right, but it was more to our left. And when the sun started coming up, we all realized we got to get up from here. We can't stay here.
Yeah.
We got up.
And those jakes acting like they were, because we did have that trail camera in there, and we had pictures of 2 longbeards that were in there consistently. But we didn't have any pictures of those jakes, not in that big wad. So we were wondering, maybe they come in here and broke up that part.
Drove those 2 longbeards out. They'll sure do it.
Well, I tell y'all, I was, one thing concerned me. You remember a couple of years back, we had a hatch. There was 21 jakes on this place. And if a turkey gobble, they come straight to him and just run him off. You remember we had a time trying to kill a longbeard, because there were so many jakes, and they stayed in one big wad. I mean, me and Troy called up 18 together one day, me and him and Matt, and it was 18 in a wad. And if a turkey gobbled, they went straight to him and they're running him off, So I told y'all, yesterday, I said, well, there was 12 up here up front, at the dipping vat. And I said, I hope them suckers ain't staying together and doing that same thing. So I think they've split up now.
Which helps.
And, but I'm like you, I think those gobblers will be back in there.
Yeah. Well, I can still remember. I'm pretty sure it was a Brad Gibson. It had to be. We were in Florida. We were sitting on this big pasture, and a turkey gobbled, and you couldn't see him, but it was across the pasture. And then all of a sudden, out of the back of the pasture, 8 jakes come running across, running right to where we heard that gobble from.
Looked like those Tyrannosaurus. What they
That's
call
what
them?
velociraptors.
Yeah.
That's what they, we were like.
Just
Look at
running
that.
across the field to go eat something else.
And we never heard that turkey again that day. Them jakes went in there and run him off, I guess. But they will sure do it. But yeah, y'all ended up saying Troy turned around, looked at me, and said, "Y'all want to go for a walk?" I said, "Uh-huh."
Yeah, normally we go for a ride, but on this particular morning we didn't. We decided to take the truck back there and just walk. Go back a little old school. Normally we'll have the buggy with us, the Polaris Ranger, and this time we just decided to walk, which isn't a bad thing because I need the exercise. And we left, and it was either go up the big hill or go around the big hill. And I took the option of going around the big hill.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to go over it, you and Kevin. Y'all tough. I'm not. And we actually.
I don't think I said that.
We actually wound up where we.
That's a bad walk if you go
and
up
I
that
killed
hill.
a double 2 years ago.
Yep.
With Lake here, the first afternoon we were here.
Yeah.
And tried to strike a turkey there and just couldn't make it happen. They just basically shut up. And Lake made the comment on the way here yesterday. He said he had talked to Will Dixon, and Will Dixon said that they're in the gobbling lull right now. He said his turkey's pretty much shut up, gobble a little bit in the tree, and it's over with.
Which is obviously not news I wanted to hear, but I mean.
And it's hard to believe that. Well, it shouldn't be hard to believe that. It's hard for us to process that because if you look at the woods right now, you'd swear it's the middle to the latter part of April when it's really not even April yet.
Yeah, it looks like, it's
early.
It's green. Yeah,
and it's early.
Well, it's like I told you the other day. It was the first good week of April before you ever saw a dogwood bloom. They were blooming the last weekend in February. They
are done.
It was unreal.
It's wild.
They are done.
It's a different year.
But when we didn't hear those turkeys, that area where we killed that double, that shed area, it's always been a pretty good little hub too. And Matt cut some timber up there several years ago, and it formed that clear cut. And those hens had really taken to it. Of course, those pines are up now, but there's still a lot of good nesting area.
Yeah.
So those hens flock up there. And I just felt like, well, if we can go that route, we may catch one at the shed, but if we can always go up there to that intersection, if we can get in the backside of that graveyard plot where we killed the turkey this morning, maybe we can catch one coming up that road because we saw so much gobbler traffic up and down that road yesterday.
Yeah.
And that's just a good spot to get. And we had a good shade, and you
can hear, and they can hear you.
Yeah, and the sun was right and everything. So I just felt like, because like we said, when they're in them gobbling lulls, like you said this morning, we'd run and gun, and we'd bump turkeys and blow turkeys out.
And we were thinking we should be able to make one gobble.
If
they don't want to gobble, they ain't gonna
gobble. Nope. Yeah. And you've said it a million times. It's okay if they live, but I learned guiding at Bent Creek from Bob Walker and a bunch of those guys. Some of those guys, Jim Bevel and Bill Martin, as Cuz said, and David Gardner's passed, but at that time he called them Murderer's Row. He wrote in one of his books about turkey hunting. And those guys taught me a lot. And that's one of the things they said. And even Mr. Johnny Lanier, how he talks. He says, Kevin, you can't run and gun these turkeys over here. And he's right. You've got to go where turkeys are and wait on them. And you got to be patient. And those guys taught me a lot about that.
Which is, there was obviously today worked out for one. Because I was like, it'd be kind of cool we hunt this morning, and then we'll release that podcast the day that we hunted, regardless of what happens, slow hunt, good hunt, doesn't matter. But then with the hunt, obviously we spoke about, we haven't gone in detail, but we killed a turkey. But to me, just as we were going back and I was thinking about this podcast, there were so many things I think we could pull from that hunt to learn from. One of them you just touched on. Because, I think it's especially, and I think TV and the YouTube's to blame for a lot of it, but a lot of guys I know, they do just like what you're talking about. They don't want to find a spot where turkeys frequent and set up and call for a little while. They want to blow through the woods yelping.
It's not macho enough.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, it gets to be an ego thing to some people, to where if you can't go call up a turkey and kill it, look, if you could slip up on one without even saying a word to him, you're a good hunter, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Well, like we talked about.
I haven't known many Indians in my life, but I did know one starving one, and he couldn't hunt worth a crap. You hear what I'm saying?
Well, you said it this morning. You said, boy, if we'd have been Indians with longbows, we'd have been plucking turkeys because they were close.
They'd have had jakes laying all over that field.
Yeah.
But
this is true.
Well, there's some turkeys I don't care how good a hunter you are, how good a caller you are. Number one, if you don't have turkeys, you're not going to kill them. I don't care what you are.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot, and you know, I don't care. It helps to be a good caller, but you got to know your ground. You got to know your dirt, and you got to know your turkeys, and know where turkeys like to be. And you know, Troy and I had figured. I mean, this turkeys gave us havoc that we killed today. This ain't the first encounter we've had with him. I mean, I've had the safety snapped off on him so many times. I know of 3 right now that I've had. You know, this safety snapped off, and this joker, you know, he's eluded us and all. But there's sometimes that you just, it's like Troy said, there's some gobblers, and when we saw them Spurs like he's got, I mean, he was the man of the hill. Don't tell him what he's got run off or shut down. There's sometimes you just got to wait them out. I mean, I don't like deer hunting turkeys, but we knew where that turkey was going to go, and we just yupped a little bit.
Well, we knew where I think I made the comment on it 2 years ago about this turkey. So the only way you're going to kill that turkey is you got to get in his way. And we got in his way this morning. We got where he had been playing his game. He was up on top of that big mountain up there, and he lived there. And finally he heard us. And I'm thinking he was just coming back up that road. We were actually just all sitting there for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. Lake was on his phone. Kevin was asleep. We had Matthew with us, Matt's son Matthew. He was running the second camera for us. And he was on his phone and running camera at the same time. The only guy in this whole group of people we got that can multitask. The rest of us can only do one thing at a time, including me. And I was just kind of sitting there daydreaming. And I did pick up my phone. And I was texting my daughter. And I put my phone down. I looked at Kevin and
my phone went off.
Well, but there was a turkey that gobbled earlier, way off.
Yeah, I mean, you could barely hear
him. And whenever Lake hears a turkey, or Jordan, which I can't hear like I used to.
Well, you know, we heard him one time when we got up to the intersection of the road. You crowed, and I said, I think I heard a turkey down there, you know, and we went that way.
But when you got 4 people standing and only one person says they hear a turkey, I tend to not believe it was a turkey.
I understand that.
Just
I got it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you didn't hear one.
I got it.
But I did hear what you heard, and I was like, I'm not 100% sure it was a turkey, but if Kevin says it is, let's go that way, because that's where they should be. It's a no-brainer to me.
Now I will do that now, even if I don't hear the turkey and someone else does. But well, if we go that way, it's not like it's a bad option to go that way. So why not? You know,
you either go left or right. Which way you want to go?
Yeah.
So we went left, and we got to that food plot, and we all made the decision. I had sat there. Me and Matt and Toby sat there last year, kind of trying, pretty much doing the same thing we did this morning, just hoping we sit down and relax and just chill out, let the morning progress, and if any turkeys gobble, we'll know where they were from being where we were. And that's what we did this morning. And man, I decided to just cut one time, and I did it, and all 4 of us knew it that time.
Mm-hmm.
And he was behind us coming up the road, and I thought, man, we in the chips. But he's coming behind us.
Yeah.
Which is like, this is, you know, hunting, it don't matter.
Yeah.
If I was hunting, I'd have just turned around, laid in the road, and shot him coming up the road.
Well, hunting wise, it worked out fine, even if you didn't flip around, because you had that big buffer strip of thicket right there. So he's not going to see you more than likely.
No.
But like you said, hunting, you go for first opportunity. So you've been wanting to shoot. You know.
Well, you need to tell the rest of the story, because you're the one that saw him first.
Well, like I said, it goes back to me and Jordan. We talked about, or last podcast episode, we talked about this. We were having this like discussion on whether or not a turkey can control the volume of his gobble, whether or not he was doing that number or whether he was just standing in our opposition. But I don't think any of us thought that he was as close as he was, because he was there in 3 minutes or less from when we heard him.
From where he was.
when you yelped and he gobbled, you said we're in the game, okay? And about that time, you know, I got a text, you know, and I answered Tanya and said, no, we ain't killed a turkey. You did something. Matthew was on his phone.
What Troy said, looked over at Matthew, who was running the second camera.
And that's when he said, hey, you better get this piece of camo on that camera.
He says, if he's going to come that way, he said, throw this drape over your camera. And so I remember, like, Troy passed the drape to him, and Matthew's full, you know, getting the thing over the camera. And I'm just kind of sitting there, got my camera on, you know, on wide. It's got Troy and everything else. And I hear something. And I hear something in the road, but like it was like feet pitter-pattering really quick. I thought it was some kind of a critter, like a
bobcat
or a you know, like a squirrel. I don't know, a rabbit maybe, something. But I just kind of look over there. And when I look over there, I mean, and let me try to frame this up the right way.
And when you say over there, you're talking about feet.
Yeah, when I look, you know, so we're sitting on the edge of this food plot. The road is to our right. I've got like maybe
10 feet max.
10 feet of briars and some privet and stuff, and then there's the road. So I can look through that thicket and I can see the open road. And the road is, like I said, 10 feet from me. It's like that. And I hear that, and I look over to see what it is, and I see a red head and a flopping beard running. And I have to process all this in less than a second. And I just remember, and, Troy's trying to tell Matthew how to situate that cover on his camera, and I just go, whoa, 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 whoa. And, I mean, he just runs.
And the good thing was, Troy's teaching Matthew out of camera, and Matthew's got it rolling on everything. When we go back and look at it, the turkey's actually, before he gets to you and you say that, he's strutting in the road.
He saw that because this is a very important part of the story we left out. We put Killer Bee out, strutter decoy.
Killer Bee and the photoform hen, yep.
And I remember, because the comment that was made is strutter or no strutter, and one of y'all said that big turkey lives up here.
Mm-hmm.
I think a strutter's the way to go.
Yeah.
Which ended up being a very right decision.
Yep. And I said it just far enough off the plot, but in the plot, where if he did come up that road, he could see it.
Yeah. So
if it works, it works. If it don't, it don't.
The footage is actually pretty hilarious because, like I said, you can see Troy
it's not something you see every day in turkey hunting.
It reminded me of a drag race because he come up the road and he was stopped and he was strutting, and then all of a sudden the light turned green and that sucker took off like a shot. Just
because when he I see him with my eyes before I catch him in the camera. When I catch him in the camera, there ain't no hesitation. I mean, he just looks like a NASCAR car. I mean, like a boom. I mean,
from the time he walked into ran into the food plot in the corner to the decoy, which is about 30 yards.
Yeah.
Because it's on an angle. Kevin's shot was about 20, but from the
time
he
was running a 4.140.
He made that, I guarantee you, in a second.
He could outrun Usain Bolt. You remember Usain Bolt from New Mexico?
I do.
He was like Bo Jackson running that distance
before Bo had his hip surgery.
Exactly.
That's what we had a turkey in New Mexico that we called Usain Bolt because he ran everywhere.
Everywhere he went,
that turkey this morning would have outrun him. That sucker was moving. I mean,
the amazing thing to me is how hard he hit Killer Bee.
Yeah.
I've never seen one just smooth. He never checked up. He just ran over him.
The closest thing he did to slowing down, and it's almost like he didn't mean to do it. It's like right before he got up to him, he started to go back into strut again, but he was like, no, wham, and he just.
But I've never seen one do that. As many as Matt and I've killed up here using the strutter, B-Mobile when that first came out.
Yeah.
We always had the butt of the turkey facing the goblin, facing the gobbler, and he'd come around. He's going to come to one side and hit it and back up and hit it. This joker, man, I'm telling you, when the light turned green, he ran straight through the back of the fan. I'm talking just the left side of the fan. He just plowed through the fan.
He looked like the Bigfoot truck. Hit, when years ago when Bigfoot first came on the scene, it was like one car at a time, and they would hit the car, the truck would go in there and just land on top of the car. And you couldn't see the car because the truck was so big. Well, that's how this. Because I looked out there after he hit the decoy, and the decoy was gone.
Yeah,
well, when he hit it with both spurs. Yeah. It sounded like you hit a 55-gallon drum, an empty one with a baseball bat, just boom.
I've never seen one get mad at that one for as long as he did.
He wouldn't get off of it.
And we weren't like going, just sitting there going, ooh, look at that. He was just facing dead away, and he was puffed up and hunched over. You never really could get a clear shot at his head.
Well, he hit him hard enough. When I picked the turkey up, he had plastic off the B-Mobile off the sides, where you said the scuff marks were. I was peeling little pieces of plastic off of his spurs.
He rolled it back like a file.
Golly. Yeah. So, we're sitting there, and Kevin's like, and we're like, what? I guess, at some point he's got to pike his head up, and eventually he did.
Well, Troy said, get your gun. I had my gun kind of up. Troy still had his in his lap. He said, can you kill him? I said, no, and because he had his back all covered up, and he was just whacking on that joker,
Which, you could have taken a body shot, but nah, ain't no sense in that. He wasn't going anywhere. Exactly, yeah.
His main focus was how many more spurs can I get in this guy that's up here on top of my world.
Because he was mad.
Well, we started yapping and we did that aggressive purring to him. Then he kind of stuck his head up, and looked at us, and then and Troy said, "Can you kill him?" And about time you said, "Can you kill him?" And I no, I can't, because he popped his head back down, And Lake's like, next time that joker pops his head up, now we got to do something.
He did it one good time. He craned that whole neck up, kill him, boom, and that was the end of that story.
Y'all didn't see it, but after it was all said and done, we were done and we shot everything we had to shoot. And we were walking out. I walked out there to pick up Killer Bee, and Killer Bee was laying on the side and had that one eye looking up at me. And he looked at me and he says, "Is he gone yet?"
You're rough on poor
He said,
Killer
that's
B.
the worst I've ever got. He said, I got whooped.
He got, man, that's the worst whooping I've ever seen a turkey put on that decoy.
I've been hunting them for 30-something years now, and I've never seen one hit a turkey decoy that hard.
Because usually, even the ones that I've
especially
seen,
one gobbler, you get 2 or 3 of them together, they'll just whoop the crap out of them.
Even the ones that I've seen come in that you would consider, man, they come into it aggressive. They usually run up, they jump, give them one good pop, and then they just kind of strut around and maybe hit them.
Yeah, they waiting to get popped next.
No, that sucker was like.
He said, I'm taking full advantage of this deal.
Well, now, Matt and I had one several years ago.
Mike Tyson can't knock somebody out that fast.
Nope. Matt and I had one out here in this horse patch one year, and that turkey, he was big. He was 21 and a half, which is big for this part of Alabama. He was a good turkey. He come up, and you know how at that time B-Mobile had the little plastic insert where you put the tail feathers, and he hit that thing with his spur, and it busted. It like just feathers just kind of flew, and then he spun around and got in his face and gobbled. And that's about, I mean, that was pretty cool, but it wasn't anything like today.
Think about a nail coming at you at 21 pounds per square inch.
Yeah.
At however fast they can kick you. I used to have a bandy rooster. I told you all that story down there when we were hunting. He was like that. And I used to go in the backyard, and I used to have full gear on, man. I had a helmet with a bubble on it. I had my daddy's welding gloves. I had my motocross racing boots and my shin guards, and I had a pair of football pants with pads in it, and I didn't even play football. And my mama's got a picture of him where she had it. I think the storm got it, but it was the most hilarious thing, and she used to always show it to everybody, and they'd be like, what is he doing, playing football, riding a motorbike? She said, no, he's out there feeding his chickens. And that little bandy rooster I had, he would jump up and he just soon spur you in the chest as he would spur you in the leg. Tucker had spurs that long.
It was just interesting to me what the thought process and I guess the methods that went into killing that turkey. And not only that, how much history y'all had with that particular turkey. Because, again, it was obvious when Kevin picked that turkey up and held his spurs to where we could see him. We're like, yeah, he's been here a while.
I think patience mainly killed him, and just going and sitting where he lives, knowing that area too. Because if you think about it, he had 3 ways he can come to you. He can come up the road we walked up. He can come from the left down in the bottom out of the food plot, or he's going to come up the road behind us. He can't come from the right because it's a big thicket. It's an old cutover, which is a deer can't even walk through it. So he's got to come there, and knowing how he's doing and traveling, what he's been doing in the last couple of years. In the mornings, he's down low, flies down, walks up the road. We saw his tracks when we were walking in there, going up the road right to where he was.
Well, when Matthew pulled those trail cam things yesterday, and you and Matthew were looking at them, there was multiple gobblers in there. I mean, can you imagine how that joker that's been in there feels? I mean, I'm surprised he even lets one get in the zip code with him where he was acting.
I don't know. Maybe this afternoon they'll realize he's not there, but it's going to be tomorrow morning. They're going to all be sitting in the tree going, That's not JoJo.
Well, we named him the Ridge Runner. Several years ago.
I got some names for him, but I can't say them on this podcast.
Yeah, that's what y'all call him this morning, the Ridge Runner.
We're going to be politically correct because that's what he did. He run that whole ridge up top up there, and he just kept everything run off.
He used to stand on the very top of that hill, that mountain, and gobble down at you in the bottom.
And with him acting like that, I can see why he kept everything run off.
Not to mention them big. That's some of the straightest spurs I've seen in a long time. There's not a bend to them.
That would make sense. We didn't see any Jakes on that camera. He probably wouldn't tolerate any of that. That whole wad of 12 probably could have come to him. He'd have been like,
Well, there's how many times we all talk about ground shrinkage, on a deer, but
yeah,
today was one of those days when you walk up, I mean, and you're like, wow, Wow.
Yeah, first thing you think is, wow, look what I just killed. And the second thing you think is, I'm not grabbing that.
Yeah.
I'm not grabbing that. But all being said and done, how many places, and there's more and more coming up now because there's a lot of people with today's technology, with the science and everything that we know about wildlife and taking care of wildlife and farm management and timber management and land management, and people like Matt and Toxie and Wilbur and just so many people that we know, friends that are landowners. I don't have any land. I'm working on some, but I don't have any. But I know if I do get some, it's going to be near and dear to my heart, because it's the only thing in this world we live in today that outside of the love you give to somebody, it's the only thing that you can give that there's never going to be any more. You can't make it. God made it one time. And it's our responsibility, and that's what Matt does with this place. Matt takes this place not to, I don't want to say serious to where it's so serious that you just don't want to be here, but he's very, very serious about how he takes care of his place, how he takes care of his timber. There's some timber on here that he told me this again last night, and he tells me this every time we're here. He says, you will never see that right there cut as long as I'm living. And he said, now, I'm not saying I may be in a coma and they come cut it because they need the money to get me out of the hospital. He said, I hope I got enough insurance for that, but that timber right there will never get cut, ever. And I get that. I really do. I remember when I was working at Mossy Oak, and you know, as Mossy Oak started growing, Toxie started doing well, and him and Mr. Fox were buying some property and doing some things. And there was a lot of people in that part of the world that were upset with what they were doing, but they bought it so it would stay what it was, and so they could make it better. And there's an elite group of people in this world that can do that, and that are willing to do that. And I'm so thankful that I get to come and even step foot on a place like this. It's not even funny. Not to mention the food we eat, the camaraderie we have, and I know we're dealing with the COVID-19, and we're all trying to just fist bump and elbow pump and all that stuff, and be as careful as we can. But man, without having this kind of stuff, you'd go insane. You would. What else would you do? Sit home like people are to. A lot of people are just.
Yeah, a lot of people are having to.
I know. I'm so thankful that we're here, and it's almost 4:00, and it's about time to go turkey hunting.
About time to head out again. I think we covered everything that I wanted to. I mean, as far as what went into killing that turkey, and just the craziness that was the hunt this morning.
And the funny thing was, we called several times before that one time he answered, and he never did answer us. Now, whether he was far enough away and couldn't hear us. But
well, I said this morning to both of y'all, even the turkey that was up, he wasn't roosted. He was inside 100 yards from us this morning, and he was gobbling toward us, and he didn't sound that loud. And, when they got on the ground right out there in front of us, I mean, he was throwing it out there, but it just wasn't that loud. Today's just one of them days that the sound just didn't travel. Everything sounded dead,
It was a pretty morning, but it wasn't. It was heavy. It was thick. No fog. It was just warm and muggy. And
we talked about this morning. We didn't even hear any crows for a while.
Usually around
it
here
was
at daylight
8 o'clock before we heard a crow, and I was like,
we
wow.
heard but one or two crows the whole morning. Yeah, there was something to that.
Well, when you heard the crow was when
the turkey
you crowed. When we heard that turkey the first time, when you crowed with the classic crow, that other crow answered you closer to him, and that's the crow I believe he gobbled at. And that's really, like you said, that's the first one we'd heard all morning.
Well,
and I'm glad he did.
Yeah, me too.
Well, we got this afternoon, and I know they got a little bit of rain to come in tomorrow, but I'm excited about going this afternoon because Matt's coming with us. He wanted to go this morning, but his son Matthew came, so it looks like Kevin
and found out that he's a pretty daggum good cameraman.
Well, he keeps the camera rolling when you're supposed to keep the camera rolling, which is pretty important.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But Matthew is one of those kids. He's computer savvy.
Yeah.
And he picks up on things real quick, but Matthew's a perfectionist, and he wants to make sure that everything is just right, when he does it.
Yep. Well, he did a good job having that roll. Him and Lake both were rolling when that turkey come running by.
Yeah, he caught that footage today, for sure did.
That's the kind of stuff that if you don't catch it and try to explain it to somebody and tell them what happened, they look at you and go, whatever.
Yeah.
Turkey didn't run 10 foot behind you.
Or if we told them about that, like that, they go, you're embellishing a little bit.
You're stretching out just a tad.
But no. So anyhow, I think we're gonna wrap this up because for one, we got time to get back in the woods. So
Alabama continues.
Alabama continues. So guys, thank you for listening. Also plug if you haven't checked out the new Truth Web series on Primos.com yet, you need to. And I think that's it.
Well, a lot of people are liking that. That we giving them that stuff fresh now, right off the cutting room floor.
I'm loving it.
Oh, I do too. I love watching.
My wife's not loving it because now that I'm editing at home, she's like, "Are you ever gonna go to bed?" Go to bed. I'm like, I'm almost done. You know how it is. You edit. You get in there and you start working on something. It's like an artist taking a picture, painting a picture. You got sometimes you got to walk away from it because you get.
But there's a lot of people watching. I mean, I hear a lot of young kids and stuff. They're watching that and they're watching the YouTube channel. I mean, they're keeping up with it. Boy, when something hits on Facebook that drives them to it, they're there.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about it. And we're gonna keep it rolling. This hunt will be on the website here in no time. So
it'll be probably like next week.
Yeah. So, guys, hope y'all enjoyed it. Again, this podcast is getting released a little bit later than normal, but I hope you understand why. If we would have recorded it yesterday, we wouldn't have had this hunt to talk about.
We need to just start bringing them with us. You know what you need to do? Just take the audio from that hunt and just let it be your podcast.
Just let it be. Roll. There you go. I don't know. Sometimes if it was a Jimmy hunt and he got mad, I couldn't use that audio.
No, you'd have to do a lot of editing.
Jimmy sent me a text today, and he said, I'm glad that y'all killed that turkey. He said, great set of hooks. He said, but do not, and he put in all caps, do not send me a picture of y'all eating any Big Daddy's ribs.
Yeah. That would offend him more than the dead turkey
God.
would.
Exactly. He wasn't worried about turkey, but if he'd seen us with some ribs, it would have been.
Well, that's the first thing he asked me when I called him this morning. He said, where'd y'all stop and eat on the way there? I said, we didn't. What? I said, Jimmy, there's nowhere to eat. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Because a week and a half ago, him and I went through Meridian. We stopped at Dickey's and ate barbecue.
Anyhow. All right. We got to go hunting. Thank y'all
Yep.
for listening to the Speak the Language podcast.